I'm not too confident about many things, but I'm fairly sure of that. Yes. Now let's go over unit measurement again, because why the hell not? Yeah. It never
Okay.
hurts. It never hurts. There's a saying in Latin, repetitio est mater studiorum, meaning
Mhm.
repetition is the mother of study. Yes. Yeah, we used to have a guy who used to teach us plant physiology, and he would say it in a really weird way. He was kind of feminine in his ways. He was like, Ismétlése tudás anyucia. We were like, oh my God, that was teeny gay. No offense, sir. No, no, I mean, we really like him, to be honest, and I look up to him. He dedicated his books for me, and I look at him as a mentor. But this kind of always looking perfect, always always saying the right thing, and always being impeccable. Yeah, because he had impeccable shoes. We went to a muddy region, so he changed his impeccable shoes to the same model of impeccable shoes because he was treading in mud. We're like, no way, no way. Kind of like a prince, yeah. But I do love the guy. His name is Fodor Pataki Laszlo. He's a Laszlo to small well. And yeah, we still keep in touch. And he's an associate professor too. He doesn't want to be a full professor, he says, because that means you're old. I'm like, kind of does. Why do we have the international unit in place? Well, did we need it? What's the story behind it?
I don't know what's the story behind it, but it's like it helps people well, calculate the same things internationally. Like everyone can
Absolutely,
calculate the same thing.
absolutely. When you share science, it's
Mm-hmm.
an international unit, universally understood.
Yes.
The story behind it is actually the French Revolution and Napoleon Bonaparte. We don't realize it because obviously in the 19th century it was taboo to actually like Napoleon. But nowadays, yeah, he did brought about a lot of standards and practices and our modern way of life and also a modern way of schooling, proper school system, proper tax system. He was very good at running a state, apparently. Pissed off most of Europe because war and other things, but yes, it has to do with the Enlightenment. Um, Obviously, nasty things, beheadings and bloodshed. Humans, what a bunch of bastards, right?
Mhm.
But it did have amazing things because if you think about it, each culture had its own units of measurement, right? The Chinese still use li as a unit of measurement for length, or they have their own unit of weight,
Li?
which yeah, Chinese li,
What the
Li.
what is it? What kind of measurement is it?
It's
Like
for length. It's about 0.9
oh,
meters.
oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, they were using it in cartography. I was interested in early discoveries, and I would collect all these books and read them, and I don't know, I create mental notes of everything I see because I'm weird. But bottom line, I kind of understand that people don't really have the same emotional charge towards knowledge, and I can understand that. I'm not saying I feel like that, but I can understand it. Whenever I hear a lecture that is presented with passion, I'm captivated by it. I just listen and I want to have a cool memory of it all, and that's a great thing. And if I take notes on the side, my God, it's euphoric. So yes, if I were to win the lottery, I would I'd probably be a lifelong student because I really enjoy studying. They're not exams, but the process itself. If you're genuinely interested, well, that's amazing. Oftentimes, these base units can have derived units because there are core relationships between them. Yes. A number without a unit doesn't mean anything. You probably remember in middle school, you would finish your physics calculation and you'd be competing who finished fastest, who gets an extra point. If you had the proper physics teacher, it's not universal, but I had a proper one, and I think he was great. He was batshit crazy, and yeah, as a teacher, he was great. As a human being, well, he almost didn't make it after we were done with him. So yes, people, what a bunch of bastards again. But the thing was, he made us compete for extra points, and for that, we didn't use units of measurement. You get a minus point, not an extra point. And 1 point meant 1 grade. So you could get really high grades just by being active during classes.
Okay.
And this kind of competition with boys it works. With girls it's usually different by nature, but it's not universal. We had girls who were remarkably good at these calculations too. What does it do when you start practicing till practice makes perfect? You're going to remember to submit clean work. And when you have to get admitted to high school, uni, or anywhere else, you will get into the good habit of carrying units with their meaning. Yes, because it's only got to be a reliable measurement, no otherwise. I mean, obviously, I think you covered a good chunk of this in IB, of course, but from a different perspective, because they require you to write the appropriate units and the appropriate significant figures all the time. Oh, by the way, I gave you a few calculations as homework. So when you get around it, yeah,
Yes, I will send it to you.
try
Yes.
try to murder them. I
Yeah,
know it.
I've been doing them. I will send it to you after
I,
class.
I mean, I was certain. I'm just asking when you're done with them because I'm not trying to pressure anyone or anything of the sort. I just want to see how you think. Yeah, because everyone has their own way of expressing themselves in writing and in words already. So yeah, it just has its own unique charm. And if there are usual mistakes appearing, I usually detect those. Why I made those same mistakes. That's how I know. You remember with maths over maths percent concentration. I asked you the nasty question and you answered it correctly. So yeah, spot on, perfect. Most of my students fall for it, hook, line, and sinker, and even older students, people in their 50s. Yeah, you'd be surprised when you're not doing something, you forget. So
Mhm.
yeah, practice until practice makes perfect. Do we use Celsius? Not at all. Not in chemistry. We convert things into Kelvins when we do calculations because it's the international system unit. But again, if we have to use non-international system units, not SI units, then we have to convert things into the same unit of measurement, so proportionality remains true. Because a mathematical expression, a formula is not something I should learn by heart. A formula is something I should understand. What does it mean? And if I'm going to be fluent in math, which you are, then obviously I'll be able to write up a formula and express myself as such. Obviously, how we convert from one to the other, it's really not a feat for you. You did this as part of your extended essay and your private research. That is an advantage. That is an advantage in comparison to most of your peers. Why? Around 99% of people don't do an IB, yeah,
Mhm.
from uni, and IB shows. Yeah, if you did an IB, it is an advantage, but that does not exempt you from studying for the entrance exam. I'm just saying that because I had a boy this year and he was focusing highly on IB, and I'm afraid he didn't focus enough, or he didn't get lucky in the oral exam because he didn't make it. And I'm a bit pissed because he was in the top 10% of candidates. He's not a dumb guy, but now
Mhm.
he's going to attend the preparatory college, where I'm probably going to teach him again. But sometimes you need more time for everything to
Yeah.
crystallize. Well, I want to save that time if possible, but I know how demanding it can be. Should we feel anxious? Should we be afraid of these? No. I mean, in folk tales, the hero conquers the dragon. Yes? Doesn't kill it, conquers it. Best thing you can do. Obviously, how do you convert things? Well, it depends on size. What is the conversion rate? Yeah, just like with money. I'm trying to convert, let's say, this currency into the other, there's an exchange rate. Well, the good thing about the metric system that it's always 10 to the power of something. Why do we use 10? Why do we use the decimal system? Have you ever thought about that?
Because if you put a different number like 10 to the power of 2, 10 to the power of 3, you just have to add a zero. So it's like pretty easy to.
Exactly. It's pretty easy to use. But why 10? Why not 3?
Because then it wouldn't just be adding a zero, you would have to calculate like the whole thing again, basically.
Yeah, but why are we so fond of the decimal system? Why 10?
I don't know.
How many fingers do you have?
10.
10, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, girl with 12 fingers. Amazing. And it doesn't really show. When you see her buy gloves, then it seems a bit odd. But
Mhm.
yeah, we use the decimal system because it's easy to calculate with 12 with 10 fingers. Yeah. If
Yeah.
there were cultures that were actually using system 12, system 14 for the calculations, and there were the smaller calculations. But the cultures that have emerged to build civilizations here in Europe and that actually remain use the decimal system because of the 10 finger bits. Yeah.
Mhm.
Others use their finger bits in order to calculate. Yeah. 12
Yeah.
system used the four fingers and the finger bits. The 14 system also used the two bits from the thumb. That was it. And for them, that seemed perfectly natural.
Mhm.
For us, this is natural, and it would be really weird to think in any other way. But
Mhm.
our physiology and being human beings, that pretty much defines our method of thinking. So
Mhm.
that's why we're so fond of it. And as you said, you just add a zero, you take away a zero, you just put the decimal point here and there, and it's going to turn out perfect. Of course, scientific notation.
Can I have a question? When
Of
we
course.
do averages of like, let's say, for example, in my accident essay, I had four petri dishes, and then I did an average of the number of seeds that germinated. When we do the average, how do we write the mistake of measurement? Like, do we still write the uncertainty for the, let's say, ruler that we measured something with, or how do we?
Well, if it's a ruler, then of course the uncertainty can be added.
Mhm. But do you add the same uncertainty that you added to the, as in the numbers without before averaging them up, or
No,
do
you
you?
you 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 add it to the average because obviously it just goes into the relative standard deviance
Okay.
because of measurement error.
Okay. Okay.
Wow, that was a remarkably good question. Well, it's usually a second or a third year biology student problem because until then they're just doing foundation subjects, not doing their own little research, and no wonder they are because the sheer amount of information they're learning in a very small period of time can be a tad bit overwhelming, even for biology students, not just for medical students. And oftentimes people assume, oh, if it's a different faculty of Semmelweis, physiology, anatomy, or anything of the sort will be easier. I wish I could say that, but it's not true. Everyone has it difficult. You will hear locals say internationals have it easy, internationals saying locals have it easy. Um, Nobody has it easy. Nobody sleeps. Everyone works constantly. I mean, it's not like they don't sleep at all, but yeah, exhaustion is indeed a powerful driver, and because of it, I advise you to have a proper sleep schedule, because if we're not well rested, we're going to make silly mistakes, as if we were drunk. Yeah.
Hmm.
During my PhD, I didn't sleep much, and people assumed I was an alcoholic. I couldn't be an alcoholic because I'm not that fond of drinking, but yes, it can hinder intellect that much. Well, how can you combat it? Proper sleep and a tad bit of creatine. Yeah, creatine helps you with muscle and helps you use ATP more efficiently. And I'm not saying it will end exhaustion, but you'll be functioning much better because of supplementation. How much should you take? Well, yeah, usually they say 4 or 5 grams, but it depends on the size of your body, right? Because if you take too much of something, so yeah, again, significant figures, appropriate notation, and appropriate dosage, again, proportionality. Now, as you said, accuracy, precision, hours do matter. If you had a systematic hour, you included it in the end. Perfect, spot on, no issue. Now, if it's low accuracy, we can't really give any results like that. And low accuracy and low precision, absolutely unusable. High precision is good because you can hone in accuracy to make the results accurate and precise. And if they go hand in hand, obviously you're still going to have an hour, you're still going to have a spread. Have you ever went shooting for fun?
Mm, I think once. I'm not sure though. I have like this memory, but I'm not sure if it was a dream or if I actually went.
It's okay. I went a few times here in Budapest and I really enjoyed it. However, if I'm not well rested enough, I will refuse the opportunity because you're handling a firearm. It's just like when you're handling a car. You should be well rested and you should be able to respond appropriately. Otherwise, I will take a cab or public transport, probably not drive. I mean, I don't drive because I don't need to, because everything's near in Budapest and we don't travel much home, so everything else plays out well. But if I would have to, I would probably make sure I'm well rested, in order to make sure that everyone else is safe around me, first of all, and second of all, my own safety and my family's safety mainly is what matters in such cases. So I used to tell my dad, if you don't feel well rested enough, dude, just go to the side, sleep half an hour, then carry on your journey. And that's what I can say for students as well. So we used to have a Facebook group called Samuel by Sleeping Crew, and people would send pictures of their friends sleeping in random places. Sometimes it was teachers sleeping in random places. But it's a human need. You take a break of around 26 minutes between two classes, and it can be rather wonderful. Obviously, they're not going to disturb the sleeping person. Maybe take a photo, but only share it if they agree, and usually they do. Now, obviously, a random error is going to cause a bit of scatter between measurements. It's similar with shooting. Yes, if accuracy and precision of the rifle is high enough, obviously, you'll be able to achieve high accuracy and high precision. However, the human factor may also add to it. In analytical chemistry, in scientific measurements, we're trying to get rid of human error as much as possible because we make mistakes, we're only human. Do we make mistakes because we want to, because we don't care? No, we have our own physiology. Can you get rid of your heartbeat? You can't.
Heartbeat.
Yes, it, it's a factor in shooting. Your heart rate is a factor. If you're able to bring down your heartbeat below 70 beats per minute, ideally between 48 and 50, you feel like you're half asleep the whole time. You're able to achieve high accuracy and precision. You control your breathing. You control how you squeeze the trigger. You don't pull it, you squeeze it as if you would shake hands with a baby. And the firearm going off needs to be somewhat of a surprise to you as well. And then you're able to achieve high accuracy and high precision. Now, if you have a higher heart rate, that will translate to your grip, and your aim is going to move.
Mhm.
This is why in certain sports, for example in biathlon, you're skiing and afterwards you're shooting. It requires a very high level of fitness because with high fitness, after physical exertion, you'll be able to recover your base heart rate much quicker. If you're not that well trained, yeah, and you have to climb a flight of stairs, you'll be gasping for air. You probably have seen that, and it takes a while for you to catch your breath and get back your resting heart rate or your normal heart rate. And that is a systematic hour, and also random hour at the same time, when shooting. So yes, it is indeed a difficult thing. My dad also used to tell me that no one remembers the guy who got the silver medal. They always celebrate the gold medalist. Well, I beg to differ. You probably remember the Turkish guy from memes who got a silver medal in the previous Olympics. It looks like an absolute hitman. Calm, collected. He was smoking a cigarette before shooting, which I think is baffling because nicotine also can add to your heart rate. But for him, it may bring about calmness because Balkan people are going to smoke a cigarette to calm down. It may be a placebo. Does it work? Yeah, yeah. I advise against it, but yes. Now, this is again a level of attention you pay you pay to the tiny details. My friend and colleague Levi, Levi is also he always tells the devil hides in the tiny details, and he's very right. Yes, he's spot on, spot on. Have to watch out for the tiny details when designing an experiment because you never know where you can introduce a flaw that you would have never thought about. So yes, I told you about the tiny details of high range precision shooting in order to get you more acquainted with analytical chemistry. But
Mhm.
also, if you go beyond the kilometer in shooting, well, there's also other things you have to take into account. Basically, physics, how the world turns, how the Earth rotates. There's also Coriolis effect. You have to take into account the rotation of the Earth and also windage.
Mhm.
It becomes overly complicated in very little time. It's an analogy to analytical methods as well. Simple spectrophotometry can bring about a number of errors you would have never thought about unless you did it in practice and had to use old equipment. But but you'll be able to find more of those.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, as we know, laboratory equipment is usually well calibrated for a particular temperature. As you can see right there, what does it say? It says at
Where? Ah, I didn't see
20
the curve.
degrees.
20 degrees, it's that is the temperature at which it's calibrated to, basically.
Indeed, indeed, because what happens to volume if the temperature is higher or the temperature is lower?
It
And not necessarily
expands if it's higher because of the particles moving faster, right?
exactly. I'm drinking in the meantime
Yeah,
because
okay.
I'm a drinker. And I advise you to be one as well. Yeah, constant hydration does make you feel better. Your headaches are gone, and if you're a teacher, you won't be listening to gossip or drama. Why? Because in the break you'll be using the bathroom. So it protects you emotionally, physically, and in every way possible. I'm very fond of it. And yes, indeed, the amount of substance obviously is measured in moles. We're going to use a balance scale to measure mass. And again, where we measure that mass also matters. The gravity may interfere with it. Temperature, it depends how we take the temperature. We have various kinds of thermometers. First ones were based around the metal mercury. They
Yes.
would distill mercury 5 times. Not because it's magic, because it had to be high purity. Then they would put it in a tiny tank and just fill a very thin glass tube from it. And mercury would expand on temperature, and that would be proportionate to changes in temperature. Basically, Lord Kelvin and Celsius did the same experiment. And Celsius said this is going to be 0 degrees. But before them, Fahrenheit created the first thermometer. So Fahrenheit is kind of the first guy to do it. And he was like, oh, it's very cold outside. It's going to be 0 degrees. It's really hot outside. It's going to be 100 degrees. Is it difficult to convert from Fahrenheit to metric? Yeah, yeah. From Celsius to Kelvin, basically the change is 1 unit. In Fahrenheit, that's a little bit different. And Americans are quite used to the imperial system. So, yeah. Have you ever used the imperial system?
Um, probably.
Yeah,
And
well,
probably, yeah.
probably in a few curious calculations.
Yeah, in some kind of math problems, like
Yeah, yeah,
nonsense math problems.
yeah. Well, I have to talk to my American friends, and they start turning Fahrenheit pounds. I'm like, oof. I can't really find a translator to translate that, so I will have to Google it quickly. But AI comes to the rescue, and usually it's right. Now, obviously, these units are going to be used as derived units as well for volume or for density, because the mass of a particular volume is going to define its density. In some metals, it can be really hard. For example, in the case of platinum,
Mhm.
a 20 centimeter side platinum cube is so heavy that I wouldn't be able to lift it off the table. It would be difficult to hold. That would be one thing about it, but it would be remarkably heavy.
Mhm.
There was an experiment like this. One researcher had the other one lifted from the table, and the other one thought that it was glued to the table. It was not. It was not. I think it's really, really high. Or mercury. Mercury is remarkably heavy as well. In the early 90s, if you managed to collect metallic mercury and you'd be able to sell it, you could get a huge profit. However, mercury is remarkably toxic. It's a heavy metal. Lead was ubiquitously used for plumbing. Plumbum in Latin means lead.
Yeah.
And pipes were made of lead. Obviously, when the pH of water changes, lead can be easily dissolved. If it remains constant and lead doesn't get dissolved, then it's perfectly usable. However, the pH of water is seldom the same, especially drinking water, especially in a dynamically changing world. In older buildings in Budapest and everywhere else in the world, they don't have lead pipes because ancient people were stupid or they were bad people. Not at all. It's because they didn't know better. Or they say, oh, this doesn't really corrode much. We should probably use this because it doesn't become rusty and I don't have to change it every year. So, yeah, we rationalize things nowadays as well, and I'm not sure we actually think it over too much. The default concentration unit, moles, obviously, but there are other concentration units as well. How many grams of something do we have in a liter? Let's not confuse this bugger with density. That is
Mhm.
not density. My Hungarian kids sometimes did that because they don't have a proper background in sciences from high school. And everyone will reform education at some point. And I'm like,
But
how?
well, but density is mass per volume, no?
This is mass per volume 2 grams over liter.
So why
But
can't we confuse it with why why can't we?
because it's mass over volume in unit of measurement, but it
Okay.
tells you how many grams of something do you have in a particular volume.
Okay. Okay.
That's where the confusion came from the unit of measurement. But the two things don't mean the same. If I have 2 grams of salt in a liter of water, that doesn't mean the density of that water is 2 grams per liter, because that would make it a gas, right? Yeah, it's confusing. I'm sorry if I confused you with
It's
it.
okay.
It was not my
Mhm.
intent. Just saying how many people can easily confuse this. Or sometimes it's a charge-based concentration, mass equivalent or mole equivalent per liter. When something dissociates or something ionizes completely. Usually we use the term dissociate quite liberally if we're from the Eastern Hemisphere and from the Soviet area of influence, because that was the only term, even in Hungarian, dissociatio, and that's it. Um, in English terms, dissociation has to do with ionic compounds, while ionization has to do with molecular compounds. I
Mhm.
was in the second year of chemistry, mind you, when I found out that hydrogen chloride is not the same as hydrochloric acid. I was baffled. How come? And I thought it was a liquid. It is not. Hydrogen chloride is a gas, and it only becomes an acid when it comes into contact with water and it's able to ionize. Then and only
Mhm.
then can we interpret it as an acid.
Mhm.
Mind blown. I was like, no way. Then Professor Kekadi showed me the experiment of gaseous ammonia reacting with gaseous hydrogen chloride, and it created a mist. It created a solid smoke. of ammonium chloride on the spot immediately. Obviously, he would put blood samples on cotton and just display it on the table and then wipe the whole thing off. But this is why we don't keep acids and bases together in the laboratory. We keep them apart from one another because they can easily react with one another, cause impurities, cause a mess, or oftentimes cause damage. Because if a strong acid and a strong base come together, well, it can be a recipe for disaster.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, milligrams over deciliters are used. 90 milligrams over deciliter can be, for example, a blood glucose concentration. A really
Hmm.
good one, mind you. Once I had a blood glucose concentration of 101, and my mom was like, "What the heck?" Well, I forgot I was going to get my blood drawn, and I had something cheap. But
Uh-huh.
is that high? It's on the limit. It's on the limit. And she was like, "Oh, you're turning diabetic." No, I'm not. However, mind you, if someone gains too much weight, the internal organs are going to develop this stool fat, and that is the most difficult fat to get rid of. Even
Hmm.
bodybuilders may have it, and if you work out, have a proper diet, then it will go away, and then you're going to feel great. Well, it doesn't affect you, but you're going to see fat people around you
Yeah.
who are going to claim they're perfectly healthy. They're not. Nobody is. But we try. We try.
Yeah.
And everybody lies. I mean, doctors are usually shocked by the fact that my wife and I will always tell them the truth, and they're like, "What the heck's going on?" They're not trying to save face, and I'm like, "No, ma'am, I know I'm a fat fuck. You tell me how to not be one, yeah?" She's like, "Okay, well, you do this." I'm like, "I'm gonna do that." In about 6 months, things change. Yeah, and that's great. That's something you must do. Why? Because you owe it to the people around you to stay alive.
Yeah.
People don't need you to die for them. They need you to live for them,
Yeah.
preferably forever. And that's a much more difficult task than just dropping dead.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, obviously, converting in volumes, not allowed. Really, really simple. Converting from Celsius to Kelvin, again, nothing too serious. You add 273.15 to
Yeah.
the Celsius value because that is where they draw the line. And they asked Lord Kelvin, why exactly this number? And he said, "I'm Lord Kelvin." And that was his reply. "That's very British and upper class of you, sir, but it still makes you a twat just between you and me. Yeah."
And so what's the reason? Do we know?
He decided so.
Okay.
I don't know. Probably an
Interesting.
inside joke, which is very British, something we wouldn't even crack a smile at. But yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not against this. It just I just want to understand these sorts of peculiar, eccentric oddities about these people. They're not bad per se. Oftentimes we're being told by the media, "Oh, these people are bad. They have bad food." Not at all. Not at all. Just between you and me, British food isn't bad and it isn't bland. If made properly, it is quite fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinions. I mean, obviously, online everyone complains about random things, and
Hmm.
don't believe everything you see online. It just
Yeah.
might be a fad or an advertisement. Yes. Sometimes they'll just give you how much of a thing you have in a milliliter, or sometimes they'll just give you the density of the solution, and oftentimes milligrams are more compatible with milliliters if it's a density. Yes, if I were to convert that into kilograms, it would be 5 kilograms in a 5
5 kilograms
5 milligrams per liter is the same as 5 kilograms in.
in 5 grams in liter is, or one more time,
No,
what question?
if
Five.
this is a density, and I will have to convert it into kilograms,
Oh, okay.
what
Uh,
would be the appropriate volume?
well, with 5 grams into kilograms would be 0.05 kilograms. 0.005.
Yes, if I were to convert it into kilograms, that is true. Yes, yes.
Hmm.
But 5 milligrams in a milliliter. Yeah, that would be
Oh.
basically a gas if it were density. But apparently this is just a concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 2.5 millimoles of calcium in a liter. Now again, why is that that many equivalents? Because of the charges. Because of the charges. Equivalent charges carry charges. Yes. And obviously, millimoles of a liter is the unit we choose to choose to give out as lab results because physiologically it makes more sense. Oftentimes, when medical laboratories were just run by analytical chemists, they would use the units of measurement that were more fitting to their work.
Yeah.
Nowadays we use the medically more appropriate ones. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand why we had milligrams per 100 milliliters. Then I realized, well, it was easier to measure grams and volumes for the technicians when they had to prep all the solutions. If your work started at 8 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, you were preparing your solutions for the day, back in the day, before the 90s,
Yeah.
and you were calibrating everything, and you were doing a statistic in order to have good laboratory practice. And it wasn't mandated by the state, it wasn't mandated by law. It was mandated by law when we joined the European Union. Until then, some people did it because they were professionals. Others didn't care much. That's why private healthcare became a thing. Where they did things right, that became private. Where they didn't, well, obviously there was poor oversight, so it was state funded. And this is an ongoing trend, and I think it's sad because we have to do things right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a moral obligation. It's a moral obligation. So SI units, prefixes, powers of 10, very good observation. With derived units, you have no issues at all. Dimensional analysis is going to keep units constant. We use the same dimension. Density, easy. Concentration, we already did quite a few. That's clear measurements, clear science. And of course, as you said, accuracy and precision also play a very important role. And yes, these are the textbooks. Stoker number two. Stoker is the one that is recommended by our university, but I like the others as well because they have other figures. They have different kinds of approaches. And the Chang book that focuses a tad bit on practical calculations more. And also, I can easily recommend Mr. Villani's book as well. That is usually used in the Hungarian system and the prep kits for the International Olympiad. And with that being said, my wife will have to teach first year students from pharmaceutical sciences
Mm-hmm.
on how to do chemical calculations, what is pKa, reteach pH, even though they did an advanced exam on chemistry. Uh, After summer, they need a recap because they tend to forget things and they tend to forget it miserably, or they haven't really understood them properly in high school to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be ashamed to ask questions and don't be ashamed to admit, yeah, I have issues with this. Let's do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, quantity, a number you have to multiply. How many do I have? Multiplied by the unit. That's the simple thing. Length, mass, time, temperature, amount. These are the main things we should know. And obviously, which are we going to use in practice? Weighing solids, volume, temperature, concentration will be calculated. Obviously, density can be also measured.
Mm-hmm.
Have you actually measured density? How did you measure density?
Where? Or like in school, in general in school?
In general, in school, when making piling, anywhere you want it.
I don't think we've ever done an experiment where we had to measure density. I mean,
Oh,
we did calculations measuring density, but I don't really recall measuring density in class, like in
oh,
practical experiments.
oh. There's a device called an aerometer, like air, an aerometer, and it floats. it has lead on the bottom and it also has a mercury thermometer, the older ones, and it floats in a particular volume of solution. And as it floats, it gets immersed in the solution. And density is oftentimes proportionate to alcohol content, or density is oftentimes proportionate to sugar content.
Mm-hmm.
If those are the main components we are particularly interested in. And they have been used for hundreds of years in order to determine both. We have one at home, and that is calibrated for alcohol and sugar. You're surprised, you're shocked, right? My people used to make paninka and wine, and they'd be able to predict what kind of wine they're going to have from sugar content of wine juice. And of course, afterwards, they'd be able to measure the alcohol content as well, because the density changes when there's alcohol inside water. The density changes when there's sugar inside the water, and it's usually proportionate at that particular temperature, obviously, because temperature, as I said, does change density. I mean, if I cool down olive oil, it becomes more difficult to pour. That's how I can tell it's olive oil. It doesn't happen the same way with sunflower oil, so it's a good test of authenticity. And
Mm-hmm.
the Italian mafia does create bogus olive oil, mixing it with random stuff. I mean, if it says it's from the European Union and a mixture of various olive oils, probably Cosa Nostra Sacra Corona or whichever mob is deeply involved in its production, and its quality can be questionable, not real olive oil. Does that mean it's bad or it's toxic? It does not mean that, but it's not the real deal. If it says DOP, DOP says of protected origin, and it says where it's from specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a sell-by date of maximum 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
One. And that's the way you have good olive oil. You can also smell it, you can also measure its density, and you can also put it in the fridge. If it develops solid, it becomes murky, then obviously you can be sure it's the real deal. And it's a lucrative business to falsify such things, unfortunately. Anything valuable is going to be falsified somehow, but it's a bit odd. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they used to make fake wine here in Hungary, a type of sweet wine, and it
Fake
turned out,
wine.
yeah, fake wine.
How can you
Well,
make fake wine? Why
oh,
why
oh my
why is it
God,
fake?
they used to joke about the fact that, oh, they probably suspected that people are allergic to grapes. That's why they were using tablets to make that wine.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Basically, they use coloring, alcohol, and some kind of aroma product. Well, here they did use appropriate wine juice. However, the sweetness didn't come from natural sugars. Natural sugars, by that I mean glucose, fructose. It has been added, and the sweetener added was glycine. They came across glycine in a cheap manner. They added it to the wine, and basically NAV didn't know how they falsified the wine. So they took it to my friend and colleague, Professor Rohan Ciano. She's at ATA. Well, now he's retired, but he was an NMR specialist. And
Mm-hmm.
he has discovered the specific peaks of an amino acid. What the heck? What amino acid is sweet? He pondered. And it turns out it's glycine. It's glycine. And since then,
Hmm.
having an NMR database, a nuclear magnetic resonance database of wines and drugs and everything you can measure around you has become an industry standard in Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
The really great wine regions, they have two NMR laboratories
Mm-hmm.
in order to ensure quality. Yeah. My wife was invited to work there, but it's far away, so we didn't want to move. But but yeah. And winemaking is kind of a closed industry, so difficult to do something new. There were influencers from Instagram who demanded that their wine is of good quality
Uh-huh.
towards authorities, and well, they were shut down because just because they say something, it doesn't mean the chemistry checks out. Turns
Mm-hmm.
out it was bad wine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the punishment was to make people drink bad wine or to create fake wine in the Kingdom of Hungary?
They had to drink it. I don't know.
That is very good. That is perfect. I would have done that. It was worse. It was death by hanging.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, because they knew they were poisoning someone and they were willingly poisoning someone for material gain and not significant material gain. It was the same as murder because if it had methanol in it, if it had illicit compounds, they didn't care what they were feeding the other person who was an alcoholic and dependent upon it. So an addicted person being afflicted with a poison is a new level of evil upon the other person. And you are right, they should have made them drink it. Very good. Very good, yes. In government organizations where they are preoccupied with wine and spirits and drugs and whatnot, they usually still have a few of these death sentences on display. They're like, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, in the countryside, if someone makes bad alcohol that's laced with methanol, it can make a lot of people go blind. And it's the poorest of the poorest and the most vulnerable people. And obviously, I don't think one should become an alcoholic, but let's face it, some people have a genetic predisposition towards it. And after a while, they can't help themselves. If you don't give them a little alcohol in the morning, they're unable to function and they may die. It's that serious.
Yeah.
So, that's why it's a special kind of evil, and I think that was the reasoning of the lawmaker behind it. I mean, if you killed someone in anger, you would just get a 20-year sentence.
Hmm.
But providing people lived for 50 years, that was a life sentence, basically. Of course, with the prefixes, I'm not telling you anything new. Maybe Pico was not that well known, but still. And for larger ones, again, how you compare them. You have these kind of comparison multiple choice questions. Yes,
Yeah.
these are going to be reoccurring things. With the right units, again, what does it mean? Volume over time, pressure force over area, or various types of concentrations. Speed doesn't really come involved.
Hmm.
How do you convert? You just put the decimal in. Unwanted units cancel out. Target units remain.
Yeah.
Again, basic stuff. Liters, kilograms, moles. Nothing new here. How do we convert 2.5 grams to milligrams multiplied by 1,000? I'm not even going to waste your time with that. Of course, converting from microliters to milliliters, again, a whole different story. What is micro? Well, 250 microliters is a quarter of a milliliter. Did you know that your fingers are able to touch 40 micrometers? 40 micrometers are going to still feel like abrasive, not smooth, to your
Okay.
fingers. Yes,
Hmm.
your fingers are quite good at detecting uneven surfaces. The human body is quite remarkable in that regard.
Hmm.
1 milliliter, 1 centimeter cube, nothing new here. And deciliters is something mainly Hungarian alcoholics use. You
Hmm.
probably have heard the term fiadeci.
Yeah.
I heard it way too often,
Hmm.
and it's 50 milliliters. It took
Hmm.
me a while to realize it when I was learning the metric system that, oh, they actually mean this. Celsius conversion to Kelvin, not a biggie. We're not going to use Fahrenheit. You're not going to have too many Fahrenheit questions here. In the US, but we're not targeting the US. And I would very much prefer it if they would change their ways towards the metric system as well. With
Hmm.
scientific notation, some kind of power of 10, and that's how you just convert a decimal point into one direction or the other. And again, unit matters, unit matters. Yes.
Yeah.
Subatomic particle 10 to the minus 18, 10 to the power of 26 meters. That would be a planet. That would be a star. That would be something remarkably big. 10
Mhm.
to the power of 7 meters, our own planet. Something 10 times smaller, our nearest celestial being, namely the moon. A
Mhm.
molecule around 10 to the minus 9. So size matters, and this way it's much easier to understand. And of course, non-zero digits are significant, captured zeros are significant, leading zeros are not significant, and trailing zeros are also not significant. And this is a great summary of it all. Round ones at the end. That's the bottom line. Until then, if you don't need the partial results, I would just leave things as a proportion
Mhm.
and then get rid of it in the final calculation. But if you need partial results, then of course, then you're going to do the math. Otherwise, I didn't do it back in the
Mhm.
day. And I would try to put everything into one big fat equation, providing I have the mathematical skill set for it. And I did ultimately. Took me a
Mhm.
while. You cancel out all the units of measurement. You use the units of measurement to see if you're doing the correct calculation, because if they don't cancel out, you messed up.
Mhm.
But you can break it into smaller equations and then put the whole thing as proportions into a final equation and then get the final results which you're going to round up.
Mhm.
God, I miss the little guy. I'm just looking at one of his little shirts and I'm like, dude, I miss him.
He's at his grandparents, right? My
Oh
father
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's the happiest little dude on planet Earth. He
Mhm.
has a dog, he has animals nearby, he has grandma and grandpa, he has a garden, a yard, like in the countryside. And yeah, he enjoys it. He enjoys it. I think this is optimal because in Budapest he has safety, he has proper medical care, proper education, but he's also going to get the support, the immunological support of the countryside at the grandparents' house. So yeah, if you're exposed to such things and the forest is nearby when you're a child and you're involved with not just pets but also farm animals, as a small child, your immune system is far less likely to develop any autoimmune diseases.
Mhm.
But many people have a genetic predisposition of expecting to be infected by worms. That's another theory about allergic reactions, and our bodies are ready to fight off the infection of these worms. We don't
Mhm.
have them anymore. Uh, we here in Europe. That doesn't mean anywhere else in the world.
Mhm.
No, no, no. In other places, having a parasite is as normal as having hands and feet.
Mhm.
It's disgusting, I know, but it's a truth.
Mhm.
We want accuracy and precision. We don't want any errors, but we cannot avoid them. Precise doesn't mean accurate. It can be precise, but off by a mile. And I'll
Mhm.
be able to shoot off by a mile 10 times, but still not hit my target. God,
Mhm.
I really love shooting.
Mhm.
I got the little guy a Nerf gun and he started shooting and laughing. And I'm like, yeah. So there's a hierarchy in precision,
Mhm.
accuracy. A beaker, don't even get me started. You should
Mhm.
probably drink from it instead. By the way, by the way, we have beakers made especially for drinking, and we keep them in the office, not in the lab. But it's fun. You're not even a chemist if you don't drink your coffee from a beaker. But don't mix labware with office supplies. Keep them separate. I cannot stress this enough.
Mhm.
There was a story told to me by my inorganic chemistry teacher. She would say that well, someone drank carbon tetrachloride by accident because they kept coffee in the lab, and that's a no-no. And label everything in the lab. Label everything. If you have to leave, label it, or just get a pen with which you can write on glassware and,
Mhm.
and, and leave it covered. And then you'll return and do whatever with it just for safety purposes. A graduated cylinder has moderate accuracy depending on the manufacturing and the temperature.
Mhm.
volumetric pipette is precise but at a fixed volume. A burette is very good for a delivered volume, and a volumetric flask is the most precise for a final volume. It has a ring on it. Why? Does it want to get married? Is it engaged?
No,
No,
because
hopefully not.
graduation mark.
Absolutely. And why does it have a cap? Why does it have a stopper?
Oh, so we can mix liquids inside it?
Exactly. You hold the top with your index finger, you hold it tight, and then you can mix it. Then you can mix it. Very good indeed. Now, how do we read the meniscus? It depends, but usually it's
Bottom.
going to, yeah, yeah. My mom used to be very exigent about this. She said, put it down, then lean down. So
Hmm.
it's at eye level, because otherwise you're going to mess up terribly and it may cost someone their lives. Density can also be measured and calculated. I think we did that quite frequently. Here's a few work problems. They give you the mass, they give you the volume. You divide the two, bam, you got yourself a density. And sometimes mass might be missing, or
Hmm.
volume might be missing, and you have to determine the missing part. However, final answers should always include units. If in Moodle you have questions like you have to write the final answer, it's not too common, by the way. It wasn't too common so far.
Hmm.
Always write out the unit
Okay.
of measurement. Yeah. Read it carefully and try to understand what they want.
Hmm.
And don't calculate anything they don't want. I used to do that all the time. You're wasting your own time. I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but time.
Yeah.
How much so do you, again, our default concentration is as it is. And yeah, as you can see, these PowerPoints were basically made for revision.
Yes.
Usually the second part is targeted towards you, the kid, the student, so you're able to revise and get a better grasp. And you have to interpret the numerator and the denominator before calculating, so you find the appropriate unit.
Mhm.
Millimoles over liter can be perfectly sound for a medication because the less medication you need, the lesser side effects you're going to have.
Yeah.
Well, or the deadlier the compound can be. I mean, fentanyl can be used to knock people out, and it can be used to kill people as well.
Hmm.
Um, a single fistful of fentanyl, if I would just blow it into a room, we would all die. We would all
Wow.
suffocate. Yes, it has similar effects to morphine, but it's bad morphine and bad heroin because the effects don't last long. There's no euphoria, and yeah. I'm not sure how involved you are in Budapest culture because there's a song that teenage girls go crazy for. It's called Most Múlik.
Yeah.
And you probably heard of it. They think it's about a breakup and it's about being in love. It is not. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's about heroin addiction.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in particularly hazardous substances, it shocks people.
Well,
It
okay.
is. It is an addiction to heroin.
Hmm.
Yes. What it causes insane euphoria, something you normally wouldn't be able to perceive in any other way. But
Hmm.
it's fake, and that's the thing about it. It's fake. In biomedical sciences, millimoles, milligrams, deciliter, liter, again, it depends what we're looking for.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's going to be equivalent charges. Sometimes it's going to be osmolarity.
Hmm.
It depends on the sample. And of course, ionic charge is going to influence equivalence. So the same concentration can mean differing equivalents depending on the charges and positive charges. Glucose conversions, I think you're already bored by this because we did it last time. But again, Glucose may start with mass concentration. 90 milligrams per liter seems all right. Yeah,
Hmm.
uh, per deciliter. Sorry, it's not 100 milligrams a liter. Yeah, and then you divide with the molar mass. It's going to be 5 millimoles per liter, which is perfect. 5.5 is still admissible.
Hmm.
Obviously, I already know how to convert these in my head because I worked in both healthcare systems for a while, and yeah, it's easier. But doses usually go by the kilogram per
Hmm.
body mass. If if let's say you know the lethal dose of caffeine and providing all of the caffeine I consume gets absorbed, how many cans of Monster can I drink a day? That can be easily calculated as well. I did that with kids, and remarkably, the fatter I am, the more I'm able to drink. So, yeah, that's just silly. Body mass is a good indicator because if you're bigger in body mass, you have more cells.
Hmm.
However, not all cells are created equal. Muscle cells are going to metabolize toxins much quicker, or liver cells are going to metabolize toxins much quicker, while fat tissue may accumulate certain toxins. So it's
Hmm.
not all black and white. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually we go with a 70-kilogram human being because that was the average weight. Nowadays it's 80 kilograms. However, height also increased to 1.8 meters for the average male. Why?
1.8.
Yes,
Okay.
all of a sudden, men became taller and heavier. It's not because of Americans and me. It's because kids grow bigger. I mean, I have
Hmm.
Chinese friends, the Lee family, and the Lees are my height. The dad is my height, not my weight, obviously, but he's my height, and his son is 2 meters tall.
Okay.
His daughter is also really tall. They managed to grow because they were born here in Hungary, and
Hmm.
they have had different surroundings and different opportunities in comparison to these people growing up during Mao's Cultural Revolution, where there was widespread famine in China.
Hmm.
It has lasting effects. Nowadays, it's much better to live in Eastern Europe than it used to be. Can we blame our ancestors? No, no, really, it's done. But we can blame easily political regimes for starving the population. The two world wars and every wrong thing like that, we can blame that easily.
Hmm.
Now, dosage may be converted to volume as well. If you have a stock solution, yeah, 250 milligrams in 5 milliliters, well, you need to dilute it. And obviously, if you have a higher required dose, then obviously you will have to calculate the volume you have to give to the patient. And oftentimes this is going to have effect. If it's too much, it can overdose. If it's too little, it may not show its effects. So
Hmm.
usually it's two people doing the calculation and then administration will occur. And there's a hierarchy of whom can administer what kind of medication, and there's a reason for that.
Hmm.
Of course, volume per time is also very important when someone gets an IV.
Okay.
500 milliliters over 4 hours. That means 120 milliliters per hour,
Hmm.
30 milliliters over 30 minutes. Yeah, 60 milliliters an hour. That's normal. That's normal. That's not overwhelming. That's not gonna blow up that person and cause an edema because of course flow rate is also important. Yes, we do not prepare solutions anymore.
Hmm.
Why? Because a lot of people can be exhausted and we're trying to avoid human error. We get them pre-prepared. Yes, we get
Hmm.
them pre-prepared. Now, there's a practice set as well, but I'm going to move on to the other PowerPoint I planned for the day because I
Yeah.
currently don't have any issues with this at all, at
Hmm.
all. But main thing is I'm trying to go over still such things just to recap and just to review things.
Yeah.
Everything is easy and understandable so far, right?
Hmm.
Okay, then. Now, regarding scientific notation and significant figures, you did this in your own extended essay and in your own private research.
Yeah.
You know about measured values, you know how many digits, because if my accuracy and precision doesn't permit it, I can add 5 digits, but it's not honest because only the first three or the first 4 digits can be valid.
Yeah.
By the way, you can buy high precision balance scales from Chinese markets, and I compared it with an analytical scale, and it's remarkably they are remarkably good. Drug dealers and oftentimes jewelry merchants are going to use such things. Yeah, when kids have seen my tiny scale, they were like, "Are you dealing drugs?" I mean, obviously, I'm a chemist. Why wouldn't I deal drugs? I mean, I would love to go to jail for something so not lucrative. Obviously. The risk outweighs the gains, and what you see on film, that's BS. That's BS. It's usually poor people who have an inflated ego, who refuse to do proper work, write the appropriate the circumstances in order to be able to afford a better life. Instead of doing regular work and climbing a ladder or starting a business, uh, they think they're choosing the easier path.
Mhm.
If you become a drug dealer or you start making drugs as a chemist, um, the first group that's going to kill you is not going to be the police. It's going to be your competition.
Yeah.
And people don't realize this, that it's not a straightforward thing. I mean, when I was between jobs, I was it was before my postdoc and after my PhD, quite a miserable period in my life and career. I would just do odd jobs and
Uh-huh.
translate and write things for money. A few people from one of the branches of the Ukrainian mafia looked me up in the laboratory and they asked me if I would want to create a few compounds for them. And I said, if they ask me anything like that again, I will kill them where they stand. Then the big guy smiled and he was like, "So you're not interested? I understand. Have a good day, sir." And that was it. Haven't seen them ever again. But it was odd. It was odd. How did they know that I'd be capable of doing such things? So it's a strange world we live in. And I'm not
Uh-huh.
saying bad people in particular, but you know, there's a conscious thing about it. You make a compound that you know does what it's supposed to, but people use it irresponsibly and damage themselves and ultimately die. Um, how can you live with that? Because many
You
people
missed
say,
out an
well,
opportunity of a lifetime.
well, I don't know. I mean, even during my PhD stage, they offered me a position at Moore. They just told me to leave my PhD and be responsible for Romania. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing about oil. I don't know the first thing about economics. Seems a bit sus. Actually, it
Mhm.
wasn't. It was indeed an opportunity, but you know, I gave my word. I gave my word to my supervisor that I would earn my PhD under her supervision, and it was super difficult. It was the rougher way, but still, I'm happy I chose this because
Mhm.
more is not going anywhere, is it? And to be honest, I do enjoy teaching and I do enjoy research.
Mhm.
We have to know the reliable answer because I have an answer, yeah, but is it valid?
Mhm.
Uh, During our analytical chemistry practical with Professor Kikadi, he gave us a problem in which the copper levels in pork meat were so high that we could have sold piggy to the bell maker instead of the butcher. He smiled and he said, "Yes, you're completely right. I wanted to see if you understand that even though your results are correct,
Mhm.
they're still not true because pork cannot have such high copper content. It's physiologically impossible."
Mhm.
Now again, significant figures, rounding rules, uncertainty, and of course interpreting logarithms and data. It's a very interesting thing to do.
Mhm.
Having just two unit easy, significant figures, are they justified? If I want to report it poorly, well, I did not measure that. I just measured with the first two decimals because that is the highest level of precision I'm able to achieve.
Mhm.
Everything else I report is a lie. Now, a basic form is obviously going to be something times 10 to some kind of power. And again, size, again, matters. You can have a galaxy, a four-handed human, a cell, um, uh, some kind of molecule or an atom or a subatomic particle. Powers of 10 matter because it contributes greatly. Giga Mega, you might know that from IT if you're interested in such things.
Mhm.
Back in the day, everyone was interested in computers because it was the thing to do in my circles. It was fantastic when someone owned a computer. But
Mhm.
nowadays, it's ubiquitous. Nowadays, you can buy a good second-hand, um, usually industrial computer or a good office laptop that's been used by a programmer or used by an office for a quarter of its original market price or even less. And you
Mhm.
can still use this for years without having any issues whatsoever. Many people don't realize this, that in these things, you're basically, as soon as you bought it, you're losing its original value
Yeah.
fast. So it's an investment, but you have to make it wisely so you don't lose as much in the investment itself. I
Mhm.
usually go with second-hand Lenovo laptops, usually in the ThinkPad series, because those last. If a company hires you and gives you a ThinkPad, you're going to retire from that company.
Mhm.
If they give you a Mac, it might be a fancy startup, but you better keep your LinkedIn open.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, obviously these powers also apply to any kind of unit, even to data. Yeah, you have bits, you have bytes, you have megabytes, gigabytes, same thing applies here. Now, when we move the decimal point, obviously move left, it's an exponent +5, move right, it's a minus something. It's simple, right?
Mhm.
Its scientific notation has to be done with accuracy and precision and preserve significant figures when converting. There are a lot of multiple choice questions like this, and they're just trying to see if you understand quantities. Back
Yeah.
in the day in Hungary, there was a subject called Matematika és Mennyiségtan, mathematics and basically unit studies, or I don't know how to
Yeah.
quantity studies, because then people would understand quantities. It wasn't like Jack buying 5 apples and how much an apple costs. Those
Mhm.
apples had volume, those apples had weight, those apples had other parameters as well. So it was practical information about how the world works. Yes. Now, it was a different world. I'm not saying it was ideal, it was bad in many other ways, but it did give people common sense.
Mhm.
And this is something we have to bring back to middle school, to general school, to every level of education, so people won't be as easily fooled by scammers, because oftentimes scammers are not particularly smart. They're pretty smart for bad things, but in other things, they're remarkably not that great.
Mhm.
So yes, we shouldn't fall for them. But there's a saying in Brooklyn is that a chump is born every 5 minutes, so everyone can be fooled to an extent. So nobody's immune, but you can derive an immunity and question everything. That is what I can give as guidance as a scientist. Question everything. Question me as well. Multiplication, I'm really not going to waste your time with this. Addition and subtraction again. If it's to the same power, you can add them together. Otherwise, no.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's the way we convert such things. And I'm certain you have no issues doing this. By the way, you have the multiple choice questions online. When you
Yeah.
manage to do them, let me know, and I will send you a screenshot of each and every one of them on how did you do.
The multiple choice questions, the
the
With the
zip grade
question
one.
bank or the other
No, no,
one?
the zip grade
Yeah,
one.
okay, okay.
There's an Excel file that has a couple of links. I
Okay.
got it working. I talked to Tibor. I told him I have this many issues. He was like, "Oh, it's easy." He's the IT guy, and I'm like, "Thanks, dude." Because I wanted to do Google Forms, Microsoft Forms. He said, "Way too miserable, way too unstable. Go with
Mhm.
something you already know." And I use this for paper tests, for correcting paper tests. Usually, I give out these bubbles. You color those bubbles. You write your name, Neptune code, and I know who you are, and then I'm able to correct it. And if you have any issues, I send you a screenshot and you're able to evaluate which answers you got wrong. Obviously, for each exam, I'm giving a different set of questions. So you can pretty much keep your exam. You just give me the evaluation paper, and that's good enough for me. And it works remarkably fast because I can correct it on the spot in the room. You
Mhm.
bring it, I correct it. If you feel like you can do better, I'm going to allow you to sit back and think about it more. And oftentimes I get
Mhm.
better results. And I don't think that's illegal in any way because they're sitting in the same exam, they're just getting encouragement. Yeah. Because if they fail, they're like, "Phew, what do I have to lose? Let me try again." But if they're close to having a higher grade, it's even more motivating. Some people are like, it's a passing grade, I'm fine with that. But it gives them comfort, support, and a bit of opportunity. And I want to be
Mhm.
able to provide that. Now, these kinds of conversions are fairly easy. If you would have to convert this into scientific notation, number one, how would you convert it?
One more time, you liked a bit. I'm sorry.
Uh, oh, sorry, I'm a bit fast. How would you convert number one into scientific notation?
Um, what units is it in? Or
Oh,
that's not
it's
relevant.
not important. It's not relevant. How would you put it into
10
scientific
to
notation?
the power of minus 3.
Okay, no further question.
Like 5.6 times 10 to the power of minus 3.
You could go with -3. You could go with -4, whichever. Yeah, main thing is you
Minus
understand it.
4. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Either ways, it's correct. Either ways is good. I did not specify, as you said, so correct. Um, Here you have the answer key. So this is
Mhm.
good for practice. Likewise. And again, significant figures. This is oftentimes a devilish concept for a lot of international students, mainly because their English is poor. Let's face it. A lot of kids
Mhm.
struggle with English, especially Turkish kids. They struggle with English, but they also struggle with self-discipline. I mean, imagine you live in a highly controlled society, low trust oftentimes, and you're controlled by parents, you're controlled by family friends, a lot of family friends, and family oftentimes. Cross paths, and you just can't really be yourself. And you're young. You're young. Imagine that, and you want to live the same life as your European counterpart. You want to be able to date. You want to be able to drink. You want to be able to be a tad bit more free. And oftentimes in certain religious communities, that is just not possible legally. So oftentimes in these communities, young people are more accustomed to finding other ways than the good one. And for them, it's not a source of shame. Yeah, it's a source of survival. So
Mhm.
yes, and they don't really have a filter on what I'm gonna do or what I'm not gonna do. And they're not bad people, by the way. They're not bad people. Highly caring, highly loving people. It's just what they inherit and what they're born into kind of hinders them. And oftentimes English is the bad thing because there's widespread anti-America sentiment. I mean, you can dislike politicians all you want, but the people, I'm sorry, I love the people from every place on this goddamn planet. The politicians, leave me alone. They have their own interests. It's their thing. But the people are usually okay. You are able to strike a deal with everybody, and they don't realize this. Now, with that being said, proper English is necessary nowadays because it is the international language of science. Yes, and you expressing yourself in such an eloquent way in English is going to be a boon. It's going to be an advantage. Use it. Use it.
Mhm.
Stand out with your impeccable English. Stand out with your calm assurance. Yes. How are you
Mhm.
at public speaking? Are you good at it? Are you comfortable with
I,
it?
I I think so.
Oh, yeah. Practice until practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Now, what's the difference between measured and exact values?
Well, exact values. don't contain um reciprocals maybe or like
Yes, yes, yes. There's no significant figures. 3x is going to be 3x.
Mhm.
Spot on. Perfect. Yes. Dude, you really got this down. All non-zero digital significant. Yeah. Zeros between non-zeros, they count. But
Mhm.
you probably know this from IB. We did this already, so I don't want to bore you. I'm just going to find questions. There are some ambiguous trailing zeros in some cases. Yeah. This is
Mhm.
significant figures. Yeah. But we know it's 10 to the minus or 10 to the power of 3. So yes, there's no ambiguity. There's a tad bit of a summary. These summaries in the form of tables, they oftentimes help in memorization.
Yeah.
Why? Because they bring things together. I like this kind of representation of things because it's how I
Yeah.
was taught, it was how I was raised, it was a kind of logic that was understandable even by people who only get linear logic. Now, if you prefer other types of logic or you see other types of logic understandable, you can go with dichotomic logic. There's also Google LM that is able to just grab PowerPoints and put them into notes, find the
Yeah.
relationships, form graphs from it. And people who are able to see a system emerging from that usually have an IQ above 120. The average IQ is around 90, something close to 100 in Hungary and in
Okay.
the region. In Somalia, the average IQ, I hope you're sitting because otherwise you're going to collapse, is between 65 and 67. Mental retardation is 70.
Oh, okay.
And it's not about race, it's about bad nourishment, inbreeding. It sucks, but you have to help people help themselves. Yeah. Here we have a different environment in such regard. And people who have an IQ of 170 or above, they're able to see three-dimensional spaces as things being related to one another, and they have layers in thinking. They don't just have a hierarchy in thinking like linear logic does. They have a three-dimensional or a four-dimensional way of thinking, and they're able to think about why they think the way they think and correct their thinking with the new kind of thinking, if it
Mhm.
makes sense. However, incredible amounts of anxiety goes with it oftentimes. You might see this in comedy flicks, these Jewish characters like Woody Allen usually finding infinite amounts of reasons why not to do something. And
Mhm.
oftentimes it's self-inhibitory, and it's a stereotype. Not every Jewish person is the same. That would be stupid. It's like saying, "Oh, everyone who lives there is the same." That's impossible. That's
Yeah.
impossible, and it's pretty racist. But the thing is, beyond a certain IQ, people think about more things that could happen. Sometimes you have to silence that anxiety and start doing something because otherwise you're not progressing anywhere. And this is something I've seen with some of my students way too often. They
Mhm.
believe they're not good enough, they believe they shouldn't move in this or that direction, and they need encouragement more than just filling their heads with data. They also need
Mhm.
encouragement to begin. So, how many significant figures can I include in this kind of calculation? Well, usually the limiting factor is my lowest precision in a set of calculations is my highest precision.
Mhm.
If I have a crummy balance scale for one of my reactants, I'm pretty much wrapped around the helical surface, meaning I'm screwed.
Mhm.
So even though I did I did these operations, I did these mathematical operations, the count of significant figures is going to be limited with by the lower precision. And of course, the decimal place rule applies. We do not count total significant figures. We compare decimal places here. And
Mhm.
as you can see, again, the limiting factor is going to be whom. Same deal, right?
Mhm.
You can have mixed operations and again, don't round early. Don't do it. Don't do it for your own sake, for your own peace of mind. Don't do it because you're going to get you're going to get the wrong answer. Yeah? If I start rounding up in the first step, yeah, in the end, it's going to mess up my results and it's
Mhm.
going to be wrong. Oftentimes, you don't have any written exams like this that expect you to go step by step, but you have multiple choice answers to more complex calculations. Usually, from the 20 questions, maximum four or maximum two, depending on how it's randomly selected. The system you're going to use is going to be Moodle, and well, Moodle isn't the best of online environment. So you have to proceed the way they tell you to. Otherwise, oftentimes things may go wrong. If they tell you to use a private browser, use a private browser. And yeah, I did know of Iranian students who cheated. They took screenshots with a phone. That's how I have previous year's questions, by the way, because they gave it to me. They were nice. But the questions are not that significantly difficult to
Yeah.
you. To others, they may bring about a bit of a headache, but the questions were indeed updated as well. So I'm going to extract those questions from those screenshots and I will send it your way.
Okay.
It's a tad bit odd that I work there, and they know I'm not going to betray them, and they know I'm not going to tell on them, but they know I'm going to scold them. I mean, they didn't steal it and give it to anybody else; they gave it to me. So, and they didn't help anyone get in using them, because there are not that many tests on display in the semaphore system. That is why they took it. But still, not the nicest things to do. But I didn't want to judge them because they did it out of the goodness of their hearts. I mean, these kids live in a dictatorship, and when you have a bit of insider info, that means there's no big bad wolf around the corner, or if there is one, you know to expect it and avoid it.
Mhm.
That's the whole reasoning behind it. I'm not trying to say that this is a great thing to do because it's not, but I kind of understand where they're coming from. And even though this is sometimes common practice, I can still love these people
Mhm.
because they're kind-hearted. They're really, really kind-hearted.
Okay, so when we do calculations and we get like let's say 10 decimals after like 10 decimal places after the number, how much
Mhm.
should we like take during our calculations if we still have to like convert it to different.
It depends how it was given. Yeah, if
Mhm.
usually, as I said, the lowest precision is your highest precision. That's all you can
Okay.
do. If it's a point one, well, that's all you can do, not more. If it's two decimals, then obviously you can take two. But as a rule of thumb, I don't think they will mess with you regarding this in the admittance exam. And to be honest, uh, values are far away from one another, far away enough from one another, so as it won't cause any issues. In IB, again, it depends on the kind of question, because IB can mess with you willingly, and it's
Mhm.
going to tell you, and it's going to tell you, and it's going to be buried in the formulation of the question on what they want. And how do we cook for the Queen of England? Like we cook in a Michelin star restaurant? Not at all. We cook for her in a way that she prefers.
Mhm.
Why? Because she prefers, let's say, the film an ice cream globe using two spoons, not a proper ice cream spoon.
Mhm.
Well, then you do that. Same thing goes with exams and questions. I mean, don't get me wrong, chemistry is chemistry in both systems. I cannot argue with that, but IB has a different questioning method. Now, do you have access to these websites that have previous year's IB questions?
Uh, I don't know. I might. I didn't really do.
Oh, I'm going
Oh,
to send it to you then. I mean, I'm also IB certified. It's okay. I'm mainly a specialist in chemistry, not biology that much. But there's everything. There's everything on these illicit IB sites. There's previous year's questions, what to expect, what is the style. Why? It's good for practice. It's good for practice, and also you may be admitted to SEGED if you have a high enough IB score. I'm
yeah.
not saying it's 100% sure because that would be an exaggeration, but
Yeah.
usually the exam committee decides,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not in their interest to lose a highly educated IB professional uh, to someone who came from a country where they don't study English at a high enough level so as they'd be able to link proper sentences together. Oddly enough, a lot of Asian students are very good in writing, but they really suck in talking because they feel they lose face if they say the wrong thing in person. So it's more of a thing like that. But if I give them a test and they're supposed to communicate in writing, they're not using phones or anything. They have more time to think and to formulate proper sentences. Oftentimes they're going to use Microsoft Translator. If you have to talk to someone who doesn't speak your language, you can just use Microsoft Translator for free. If you have an internet access, you start talking and it immediately spells out the words. Not 100% accurate because it can mishear things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's quite useful. If you're sitting in a
Yeah.
restaurant and people are talking about you behind your back, you can answer them in the language you both speak, and it's going to surprise the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just between you and me. But it also works in education. If someone has a powerful accent or anything of the sort, perhaps the AI and Microsoft Translator may be able to understand a tad bit more.
Okay.
Now, never invent any precision because that sucks. I couldn't wrap my head around this when I was in the sixth grade and it was physics and I didn't understand and my teacher wasn't able to explain it to me. But the bottom line is no, we go with the optimal amount of digits and round ones at the end. Round ones at the end. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Exact numbers do not limit precision. That's a great thing about them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with measured values, you're going to have your uncertainty, as you specified quite accurately.
Mm-hmm.
Definitions, conversion factors, yeah, they're exact. How many significant figures again? It is going to be limited by the least precise,
Yeah.
always, as this example shows. And of course, all of our measurements are going to have some uncertainty. Why does the balance scale have that plastic enclosure?
I have no idea.
This part
Something to
I
do with evaporation?
yes. I mean, even if I start talking in front of it at such precision, the last decimal will start moving.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, when I had to inspect laboratories, I would have the technician measure something out, then ask them a question. And if they answered in front of the balance scale, that was an immediate fail. Well, you have to step back or tell the person asking a question to bugger off because you're measuring. And oftentimes in analytical scales where you have milligram values, there's no talking. There's usually a scale room in many buildings that is properly insulated against any kind of interference
Okay.
because it's so accurate and so precise. Now, in this case, reliability is 0.001 grams. That's fair. I'm not saying it's the most accurate. I mean, you can probably get a cheap scale for not that much money, and two decimals should work. And even if you start talking in front of one of those, it's going to change the numbers. It's going to change numbers. Or a kitchen scale. A kitchen scale doesn't have much accuracy and precision. It usually knows gram values, right?
Mm-hmm.
the better ones may know half grams or whatever, but it depends how accurate and precise you need it. For example, jeweler scales, which are really small, they're the size of a key fob. You're able to measure even with higher accuracy and precision. Now they do fetch a pretty penny, but nowadays the technology enables us to measure with high accuracy and precision. And yeah, many students assume you're a drug dealer if you carry one of those, but no, because it's really great when you want to measure, for example, the density of a couple
Mhm.
of cubes. Yeah, it works really well. Um, yes. We've talked about accuracy and precision.
Yeah.
We've talked about errors as well, and laboratory reporting again. Logarithms oftentimes appear in chemistry and pH oftentimes. And of course, logarithm, what does it mean? To what power do I have to raise 10 to get this particular number? And it helps a lot in scaling. Scaling
Mhm.
in the case of pH. Do you have your Telegram in front of you? Do you have
Yes.
your okay? Because I'm going to
I can't hear you right now. You're lagging.
into the other room, and I
I
have a
can't
couple of.
I
Uh,
can't hear you right now. I don't know if you're
oh,
speaking.
can you hear me now?
Ah, yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, I went into the other room. I apologize.
Ah, okay.
I can't really show it to you via camera, but I'm going to photograph it for you.
Okay.
That's going to be fun. So it's not that precise, but it does have two decimals. Yeah. Uh, Let me take a photo. Where are we? There we are. Yeah, that's what we have. This is what I carry for these lessons oftentimes. Um, those are four little cubes. And as you can see, it's a teeny tiny scale. Can you see it in Telegram?
Looking at it right now.
There we are.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And and these
Ah, that's cool.
these cubes are 2 centimeters.
Whoa, okay.
They're 2 centimeters.
2 centimeters, the cubes.
Yeah, 2 centimeter. I think they're two
Oh,
centimeter cubes exactly. And I'm going to photograph the mass of each and every one of them. And your task will be, as homework, to calculate the density of each and every one of them.
okay.
There's one made of steel, there's one made of aluminium, there's one made of brass.
Okay.
And you'll have to tell me which is which. Which one might be made of aluminium? Well, you can probably tell that to me right now. Probably which one is aluminium, which one's made of steel, which one is brass, and which one is made of pine wood.
Pinewood is the first one, the second one is brass, the third one is
Uh-huh.
steel, and the fourth one is aluminum.
Are you sure?
What?
Which one is
No,
heavier,
oh yeah.
aluminium or steel?
Yeah. Steel is heavier, of course. Yeah. I was
Yes.
looking at I was looking at the texture of the cubes, and the other one
Oh,
like
yeah. Texture can be misleading, despite the fact that it's a little bit more matte,
yeah.
for the exact same reason. Looking at it won't cut it. You will have to measure its mass, and from that you'll be able to calculate their density. And one side is 2 centimeter side. Yeah,
Mhm.
so you can easily calculate the volume, and from volume, you'll be able to calculate the densities. Is this fun?
Mhm.
I love it so much. We do this with the little guy oftentimes. It's one of his favorite experiments. Then he brings his trains, and we have to measure those, and then calculate densities. But yeah, yeah. I'm not going to go into pH because we're going to calculate pH values later on. After we cover concentrations, usually that is what comes up. And also we're going to go back to osmolarity, but now we're going to do a fair share and fair amount of recap um, if it's better.